Today is the 21st of the month of Tishrei, otherwise known as Hoshanah Rabbah, the last day of Sukkos. To find out more about Hoshanah Rabbah and Shemini Atzeres Simchas Torah coming up right after Hoshanah Rabbah, look back at the podcast from the 14th day of Tishrei, going through chapter 138. But today we are doing chapter 100, continuing the laws of the Birchas Kohanim, the priestly blessing, and we will be doing paragraphs 5 through 10. Paragraph 5. The person that should be pouring the water over the hands of the Kohen, of the priest, in advance of the Birchas Kohanim, should be somebody who is a Levi, a Levite. If there is no Levite around to pour the water over the hands of the Kohen, then it should be a firstborn Yisrael. The Jewish people are divided into three categories. You have the Kohens, the priests, they would serve at the temple. You have the Levites, who would assist the Kohens, the priests in the temple. And the rest of the Jews are just called Yisrael, Israelites. So if there is no Levite around, then a firstborn Yisrael, Israelite, should be the one pouring the water over the hands of the Kohen. If there is neither a Levite nor a firstborn Israelite, then the Kohen should wash his hands on his own. A non-firstborn Israelite, a non-firstborn Yisrael, should not do the washing for him. If the Levite or the firstborn Israelite who is doing the washing for the Kohen has reason to believe that his hands had touched something dirty or an uncovered spot on his body that morning, then they should really be washing their own hands before washing the hands of the Kohen. Paragraph 6. When the Kohens go up to give the blessing, they're not supposed to be wearing shoes. This can create a dilemma, because if they wash their hands and then they take off their shoes, they mess up the washing that they just did. They have to wash their hands again. So it's really best if they take off their shoes before they wash. Alternatively, they could untie their shoes before they wash their hands and then just slip them off without touching them before going up to do the priestly blessing. Paragraph 7. Once the Chazan, the leader of the congregation, begins the paragraph of the repetition, beginning with Ritzei, the Kohens are supposed to start heading up to the front of the shul. Therefore, they should make sure to already have their hands washed beforehand. If they hadn't, and they have enough time to go out now to wash their hands and go up to the front before the Birchas Kohanim begins, then they can do so. But it really is best if they would have had their hands washed beforehand. Paragraph 8. When the Kohens first go up, they face the front of the shul. They do not face the congregation. There is a prayer that they say in advance of giving the blessing to the Jews, asking God to accept this blessing and to make sure that the blessing is fulfilled. The Chazan then recites a paragraph beginning with Elokeinu v'Elkevoseinu. He says it quietly, but there's one word in there, Kohanim, which means priests, that he says out loud. By saying this word, Kohanim, out loud, that is calling upon the Kohanim to begin their blessing. Now the Kohanim have to make a blessing on their blessing. They have a mitzvah to bless the Jews, and just like many other mitzvahs, we make a blessing before doing the mitzvah, thanking God for giving us this mitzvah. So before the Kohens begin their blessing the Jews, they first give a blessing to God. They say, thank you, God, for this mitzvah of blessing the Jews. In the middle of saying this pre-blessing blessing, the Kohens turn around, and when they conclude it, then everybody in the shul answers Amen. So the Kohens say, thank you, Hashem, for investing in us the holiness of Aaron and giving us this mitzvah to bless the Jews be'ahava, with love. So when they say that last part of the blessing, giving us this mitzvah of blessing the Jews, at that point they turn around right before they say it, and they now face the congregation. Something to note is that it is important that the Kohen is giving this blessing to the congregation be'ahava, with love, as he says so in his introductory blessing. Therefore, if there is a Kohen that does not get along with the rest of the shul members for whatever reason, he should not be blessing the congregation, he should not be joining in the Birchas Kohanim, and he should step out of the shul in advance of the Birchas Kohanim. One other thing to note is that if there's only one Kohen going up, there's only one Kohen in shul who's going to be giving the Birchas Kohanim, then the leader does not announce that word at the beginning of Kohanim, priests, he skips that word. You only say it if there is more than one Kohen doing Birchas Kohanim. Paragraph 9. As the Kohens turn around to face the congregation, they lift up their arms until their hands are stretched out in front of them, equal height as their shoulders. They then split their fingers, their pinky and ring finger next to each other, a space, and then their middle finger and their pointer next to each other, another space, and then their thumbs. They do this on both hands, and yes, this is the Vulcan symbol, became famous by Spock in Star Trek. Supposedly, Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, was a Kohen, and when he had to come up with some sort of Vulcan greeting, then he chose the Kohen symbol because he thought it would be a unique thing that he was familiar with from his upbringing. So the hands of the Kohens are out. They are spread out horizontally in this Vulcan greeting, quote-unquote, position. Their thumbs are not supposed to be touching, but close to each other, and the right hand should be slightly higher and a little bit over the left hand. So the right thumb will be a little bit over the left thumb, not touching it. There's a lot of Kabbalistic stuff going on in this formation of their hands and the way they're holding it out. I would like to point out that I am not a Kohen, and I therefore never did Birchas Kohanim. I've been on the receiving end of the blessing many times, but I never actually gave this blessing. Therefore, if anyone listening is a Kohen and they have unique customs, or I'm not describing it in the way that they have been taught it should be done, then please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear about it. Paragraph 10. The talis of the Kohens should be spread out over their heads, and some people have the custom of spreading them out over their hands as well. The Kohens are not supposed to be looking at their hands during the Birchas Kohanim. They should be looking down at the ground, trying to keep their mind focused on giving this blessing to the Jewish people. The rest of the congregation as well is not supposed to be looking at the hands of the Kohen. So generally, most Kohens have the custom of having the talis over their hands, so the hands aren't visible at all. But even so, even with that, and especially in shuls where the Kohens might not be covering their hands fully, there's a custom for the congregation to take their own talis and put it over their heads and cover up the front of their face with the top of the talis so that they can't see the hands of the Kohen either. There's an age-old custom where all the children come to the father to gather under the father's talis, and he picks talis over his head and drapes it over all the children. Something that I grew up with, and for me, it was always a very meaningful part of the service when all the children come gather around their father to receive the Birchas Kohanim from the Kohens. This concludes today's learning. Have a great day and see you tomorrow. Or actually, a little later today. Because tomorrow is Shemini Atzeres, a holiday on which we don't use electronics.